Okay, today I will be doing my Chapter 2 case study presentation. And this case study examines the importance of social media and new social media programs in developing businesses or businesses that are already established but wanting to change some things about their organization or business model. And it really went into how implementing these new technologies helped a couple businesses recognize some of their organizational issues and move forward from them into a more profitable business. So the first question is identify the management, organization, and technology factors responsible for impeding adoption of internal corporate social networks. So for the management, specifically talking about Carlo's Bakery, Carlo noticed that the system of communication that they were using, it was mainly all paper based, was not running smoothly in his business. There were a lot of errors across the paperwork, a lot of miscommunications with customers and other employees working on the cakes. Business was slowing down just because of all the paperwork they had to deal with. And it was just kind of dragging their business into areas that it had no business going. So, because of this, he just made the decision to implement Chatter. And from a management standpoint, this really helped him round in his employees and keep them all up to speed, all connected with the orders and with the customers. So even if an employee was out of town or not at work that day, they could still see the projects being made through Chatter, and they could comment on it or even make visual edits to those orders. And the end result of that was they witnessed errors in orders drop by 30%. So organizationally, by allowing them to view, edit, and keep up with all these orders digitally and just keep a much better track of all these orders, it increased company efficiency and it greatly improved the image of the company, specifically to the customers that were ordering from them. There was pretty much a guarantee that these guys were on the spot, all connected, working together on this order. And the technology factors that came into play, in order to implement these new social media platforms, they had to have up-to-date technologies to run them. And that means, maybe they need a faster computer than what they had before, or maybe they need specific training into these different social media technologies. And because of that, I really think that forced their business to stay current in order to compete and survive in the market. And I think that that's a common trend that we see, is that in order for businesses to stay relevant and competitive, they have to adopt to these new technology practices. So the next question asks, compare the experiences implementing internal social networks of the two organizations described in this case. Why were they successful, and what role did management play in this process? So I think the big takeaway here is that social media was used in order to organize how the business was being ran. And the two companies that we see, Carlos Bake Shop and Bayer Material Sciences, with Bayer Material Sciences, by using this social media and this organization, they were really able to improve their methods of data collection and analyzation regarding their company and their customers. And this helped increase their knowledge flow. It really helped increase the efficiency of that company, and it lowered a lot of their operating costs that they were running because they had the information going into it before they actually started projects. With Carlos Bake Shop, it was pretty similar. They had this social media platform dedicated to business, and that really allowed them to streamline orders, and it allowed them to consult with other employees a lot easier, and it just overall greatly improved the company's performance. So organizationally, both of these companies saw vast improvement because of how they were using these new technologies. The management's role in that, I think, is extremely important as well, because both of these companies made the decision to incorporate new technologies, even though the learning curve may have looked to be pretty difficult. So with BMS, they established ambitious goals with their social media incorporation. They had a lot of really high sites that they wanted to see, and they genuinely thought that this social media or this organizational technology was going to help them do that. Um, and the reward was extremely large. 50% of their employees are now fully trained and routinely operating the new system, which means that their collection of this data and analyzation of it is just going to get better and better and better as time goes on and as they train new employees. With Carlo, the whole company, his employees and himself included, were hesitant to adopt this new system at first. The company already had its system, it was kind of set in its ways, and to be honest, I think that maybe they didn't realize how much of a problem they were having with this communication and these errors. So through making the decision to use this new system, all of the employees now have a much more solid system of communication, and they're now aware of the problems that they had before, so they can progress forward from that. So my takeaway from that was that management is required to select the best system, implement it, and see it out to get the best results. That's something that we can't just rely on technology alone. We have to have a role in management to make those kinds of decisions. So the next question is, should all companies implement internal enterprise social networks? Why or why not? I kind of felt like this is a pretty subjective matter. I think it's case by case. I think that what should come first before this question is companies need to really analyze themselves and figure out if there is a flaw in their current system of communication. And if that's the case, then I think that they need to do whatever they can in order to fix that flaw and move forward as a company and progress. And if that means that there is a internal enterprise social network that they could implement, then I think that's in their best interest and the best interest of everyone involved. If it's going to help the flaws and if it's going to push the company forward, then I think they need to do that in order to see out the best results. So my discussion questions are, what potential problems could arise from social media implementation in business, and how could those problems be avoided? The second question is, could social media potentially become the primary medium of conducting business? So my answer to question one is two of the potential threats that I noted was someone hacking into the account or losing control of the account, which could be extremely devastating. It could even bring an end to the company, and that has happened before, that someone has taken control of a company's account and just ruined the company's image. I think that another huge threat is that the learning curve could just be too large for the employees or the company itself to handle, and the program, after it was paid for in some way, let that be its services or a certain package or whatever, it may not be performing up to the standards that the company needs, and it may not fix any of their problems. And I just think that this would end up in lost funds towards an investment that holds no benefit whatsoever. So, in my opinion, in order to avoid that, I think the best thing to do is to make sure that everyone involved in the decision making is fully educated in this software and other softwares before implementing it, and that the big investment surrounding that should be consultation with IT professionals, and that consultation really needs to be exercised in order to ensure that the program that they're looking at, and or maybe an alternative program, will be a good fit and that it will perform the tasks that the company needs to perform. For question two, regarding could social media potentially become the primary medium of conducting business, I think this is an extremely real possibility, and I think it's already taking place in some ways. If you really look at all business models in a broad sense, rather than just a brick and mortar or a physical business location, many businesses are conducted purely online, and social media is the primary use of communicating to the public through those businesses. And at the very least, I think social media will become, or already is, the primary method of marketing, because that's how you reach the mass amount of people over the greatest amount of time. And from what I've seen, the greatest reward comes from these companies that really market themselves on social media. And I think that because of that, the importance of a social media image and just the implementation of it in business practices is only going to expand. And I think that it's going to expand in other areas of the organizations. Let that be communications among employees, or even communications with other businesses like manufacturers or things along that nature. So, yeah, I think that social media already plays a huge part in businesses, but I think that it's just going to expand from how much we've been using it already. So, in conclusion, what I took away from this case study is that the implementation of these technologies and social media are probably some of the strongest that we have for businesses, and I think it's really important to understand all the benefits of learning how these new developments could aid your business. And I think this case study kind of proves that even though a business could be stuck in their ways and they've got their way of doing things, and maybe that's working for them. But I think that taking chances on these new systems will kind of open their eyes to problems that they may not even know that they had. And in today's age, they have to be prepared to progress and move forward with as many new technologies as possible in order to stay relevant and competitive with other businesses. And I think that social media is a huge part of that progress in technology, if not the biggest right now. So that's it for my Chapter 2 case study. Thanks for watching. This was a blast.